Welcome everybody, thank you for joining me for another video, and today I'm going to be starting this mini-series where I break down the decks that I currently play. You asked for this in the comments, so we're starting off with Tearlaments, but we are going to do this, another one of these later this week with Bestial Runic, which a lot of you have asked for. Combos, test hands, the builds, everything is going to be on the channel. Today we're starting off with Tearlaments where we break down exactly the multiple possibilities that you can approach this deck, build this deck, get in deep, because this is one of the best decks in the format, and it's one of the funnest decks, to be honest. Like, a lot of different types of engines coming together, and I think it's really fun. So we got this beautiful playmat here from sleevechief.de, and I just want to remind you that the Black Friday sale is going up on the 24th of November, which is in 2 days from when this video goes up. 20% off the entire website, restocks of really popular products, and on top of all of that, 5% off from my code GALZO5. So if you've been holding out, there's a lot of border sleeve deck boxes, playmats, a lot of really beautiful accessories for you to buy with a quarter of the price slashed off immediately with my code and the 20% off. So Friday, Black Friday sale, this is coming 2 days from now. But let's get to the matter at hand. Tearlaments. Today what I'm going to do is going to be breaking down the deck, the engines, the combinations, the extra deck, everything you need to know in order to build your Tearlaments deck, and then we're going to look at some builds later throughout the video. But I just want to start off with the basics, right? The basics and the basic engine that we have. So we have, of course, 3 names that are currently in one. We have Havness, Sheeran, and Merle. They're all limited. You don't really have a choice but to play one of each, because this is how you get your combo going. This is how you fuse and kind of fuse up, I want to say, like you link up with links. You usually go for things like Muddragon, Garura, and then eventually you want to end up on something like a Kaleido Heart. You could fit in a Predaplant, Dragostapelia in the middle. So these are non-negotiable, and then you have like one of your main starters, which is Rhino Heart, which a lot of people have been playing either at 2 or at 3. You want to combine this with other normal summons, so you have other options for this, which we'll get to. But I think obviously these are the basics, and besides that, you also have a very, very good card that is currently also limited in the OCG, which is Tearlaments Kashira, and this is your main extender. It mills 2 in the graveyard, it mills 3 on the field, it can dodge a few things if you banish stuff from the graveyard, but also this is the main way you start your combo and start milling. So these are obviously the basics. I think Tearlaments, Kashira, and the 3 names are definitely the non-negotiable part. This is the beginning of every deck because this card is just so good, and these are so good that they're limited. You have to have all of them. Rhino, it depends on what other normal summon engines you play. Diviner of the Herald is the main one, which we'll talk about in a second. And it depends if you want to play 2 or 3. I think 3 is more popular recently, but 2 is fine if you want to play more diviners. I think 5 normal summons is usually the cap for a deck, in my opinion. So keep that in mind, definitely. And of course, every Tearlaments deck have to have 3 of these. Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino. We'll talk about terraforming if it's necessary, because we have other cards that could get us to this field spell. This card is really, really good. Besides boosting your entire field, it pops things when you shuffle back Tearlaments monsters. So yeah, this card is still no reprint, right? But I think it's been relatively affordable. Probably one of the most expensive cards in the deck, but still around probably 20-30, probably. So yeah, this is the main basic engine of your deck. And then we get to the other normal summon, which is Diviner of the Herald. The Diviner of the Herald, usually now I think I've been seeing it mostly at 2, right? Or 1, mostly at 1, because it's nice to draw, which gets you an access to shufflers and millers, which we'll talk about in a second, but it is not as consistent, because if you only normal summon this and commit everything and this gets stopped, it's a little bit hard to recover, especially if you have another Rhino Heart in hand. It kind of sucks to get stopped there. But this card's use is becoming a level 6 tuner. Basically that's it. If you do play the Horus engine, this could get negated, right? And it's still a level 2 tuner with the 8 monsters, the level 8 monsters from the Horus engine. This does become Baron. Some decks have been cutting Baron altogether recently, so I think it's worth assessing, and we'll talk about like what do you replace Baron for. it is worth discussing whether you actually run this. Another thing that a lot of people have been doing with this, and it's one of the ways it's a little bit falling off right now, but it's still something that you can summon from the graveyard when you mill it with Cross Sheep. So you set up a Cross Sheep, you fuse and place and summon one of the fusion monsters to a zone Cross Sheep points to. Then you can summon this, mill something, get it to level 6, either mill or link it off or do something with it. Usually I think it's at 1 right now in most builds. And then, of course, this gets you access to the best cards in the deck, which are currently these. Now, obviously, you want to mill as much as possible. I think both of these or one of these is now banned. I think both of these are banned in the OCG. I think there could be a case for it to be banned here as well. And these could also start your combo by like discarding the miller to summon a shuffler, search, get your engine rolling. I think you want to maximize on these. Like, these are all obviously limited, so you can't really max out too much beyond what you see here. But I think some people have been cutting Mudora recently, and I've been considering it as well. I don't know if shufflers are... They're really good cards, but in terms of the meta, it's nice versus Unchained sometimes, Rescue Ace, it's okay. But it doesn't shut off like strategies, like against Branded, for example. It really does a lot of really good work. So, of course, consider this. But these, like everything I showed up until now, usually it's like automatically in the deck. Now, there's another suite of cards that are, you know, the addition to the supplementary cards that you can play in addition to, depending on the scenario, depending if you're going first, second, but they're all really, really good. So, Sulliak, I think, is currently played mostly at 2 because it's a good mill and you want to end on it. Same thing with Trivikarma. It's just a trap that you want to either pop from the field with something like Unchained Shiama, which we'll talk about, or just get it to the graveyard, discard it from Dangerous, get it to the graveyard somehow. And if you mill it, this card searches Scream, it searches Sulliak, it searches probably all of these because they all mention Visa Starfrost, and of course the field spell, right? So this card, I think, is mandatory. It sucks that you sometimes draw it, but there is a lot of ways in this deck to get rid of it. Dangerous, everything that is dangerous. Now, I think in terms of the main deck, you play these in the main deck for sure. Scream is an amazing card. You usually play it at 2 or 3. It's a good mill because it gets you to a trap which enhances your end board, but it also mills 3. And lowers the attack of all your opponent's monsters for the rest of the turn. And it's also something that happens during your opponent's turn. When they summon, you control a tier, it mills. But then you have these. I think Meta Noise, since Kashira is no longer really seeing play, I think it's been falling off a little bit. Even though the effect is really good, you flip a monster face down, and then you send a Tearlaments monster from the deck, which is crazy. But since you have a very limited space in the deck, it's kind of hard to fit this. This is mostly a side deck. You put one of these in your side deck for when you're going first. So you can search it with something like Scream. You get to it in the end board and you have another Omni Negate, which is amazing. And Heartbeat is probably good in the main right now. It's generic, so you don't even have to control a Tearlaments monster. Just shuffles a card away and sends a card from your hand. That's it. So this is one of the ways where you can get a Trivikarma. You can get something like a Shuffler or a Miller to the graveyard. You have a lot of ways to do that. So Heartbeat is really good. Then we have another engine, which is the Kashira engine. These are still at 3, both of these cards. So usually what will happen is that you will play one of these just to have an extension, especially if you're playing Terraforming. This card doesn't mention Visa Starfrost. It's the only field spell that doesn't. So it's a little bit trickier to get to because you can't Trivikarma into it. But one of these with Terraforming allows you to go into Fenrir, which is an amazing interruption on its own. It's a level 7, but it also searches for Tearlaments Kashira, which is one of the best cards in the deck. Like the main monster that right now you want to get to. You want to summon it as an extender in the combo. I'm not playing it right now, but I think it's definitely worth considering. A lot of people have been playing like 2 of these, 1 of this. It's nice. And another engine that is pretty much seeing play in all the lists is the Destiny Hero engine. So what does this provide you with? First of all, you have Malicious. Not everybody plays Denier. We'll get to it in a second, but Malicious being a good mill, if you mill one of these, you can banish the copy that you milled, special summon this, and you already have a dark level 6 on the field, which is worth a lot because a Garura, a Bestial, anything that is level 6, Shiyama, makes a Beatrice, which is what you want to get to throughout your combo. Beatrice is amazing in this deck, since any card, it's basically like Curious, and this is one of the ways to get to it. Now, people usually extend with this and go for a Denier, which is also a good mill, if you have a Destiny Hero in your graveyard on the field, or I believe if it's banished as well. If you have a Destiny Hero monster on your field or in your graveyard, other than this. So if you already milled 2 Malicious, then it's fine. You can special summon this on summon. This brings back one of these to the top of the deck. Then you can use the other one, special summon it, and it's still fine. It's an extender, gets you to Little Knight, and Dangerous is probably the main reason we play this, because summoning this usually means you get a Beatrice on the board like right away. So you make either one of these with a Tearlaments monster. You make this. This one discards a card for cost to send the Destiny Hero from the deck to the graveyard. So you send the other one, summon it. This makes you a Beatrice. This is a good engine. Not everybody are playing Denier. I'm currently like, I do like the malicious ones, but sometimes you just brick on this. It happens. It will happen because you have a lot of them. And you could use Dangers to get rid of them in the hand, to send them to the graveyard. So usually the package is like 2 Nessie, 1 Mothman. Mothman is good in this deck because even if your opponent hits this and sends it to the graveyard, you still draw a card and send any card from your hand to the graveyard, which is good. And Nessie is an Aqua, which in turn, you don't have to get as many tier names into the graveyard, because 1 tier name, 1 Rhino, and 1 Nessie makes a Kaleido Heart, because it requires 1 Rhino and 2 Aqua monsters. It's also dark, both of them, so it makes a Mundragon, which is essential if you're playing something like Bahamut Shark, and it's overall a good card. And this is, of course, level 4, which this deck plays rank 4s. So one of the things that has become a little less popular right now, King of the Swamp, this main use of this card is to get you to rule Kalos or Grafa, the Dark World Overlord, which are both, one is a special summon negate, one is a spell negate or a trap negate. Grafa also requires you to have cards in hand because you have to discard on resolution. You can send this to the graveyard by, you just discard it, search a polymerization. So it's a different kind of build. I think it's more of a control-y build. A lot of people have been going for like full gas, but it's still seeing play, obviously. Rule Kalos is not seeing a lot of play because Kalos is banned, and you have to play something like this, which doesn't do a lot in the hand, but it's still an Aqua, it still searches, it still puts itself to the graveyard, so it's obviously worth mentioning. This is one of the stronger engines that you can pair up Tearlaments with. Destrudo, good mill, because you can summon it, target your level 4s, it becomes a level 3, and then you can use this and a level 7 monster, which is in turn Tearlaments Kashira, Fenrir, to make a Baron, right? Pays half your life points, kind of dangerous to play, but it's still something that a lot of people play. And another thing is Nightsword Serpent, which if you send to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon it. It's a level 4 water monster, which is an easy way to get to Bahamut Shark. So if you're playing a build with Bahamut, you mill this, you get it. This and Rhino Heart or this or Mundragon automatically makes, it's much easier to make a Bahamut Shark. People have been kind of falling off of Winda, but Shadal Beast is still a good mill. It's a draw, and it's a dark monster, and I think it's definitely worth considering. I think a lot of people are still playing it, but you are seeing here there's a lot of like one-off good mills that do a very specific thing, so you still have to consider all of them. And then we have Fiendish Rhino Warrior and Shiyama. Now, some people have been, I think Jesse Cotton kind of came up with the Fiendish Rhino Warrior because it's a good mill. It will send you the Shiyama, and the Shiyama is good. I don't really like this because it's a little bit too much. You saw all the mini engines have a lot of bricks in them, but Shiyama itself is a level 6 that can pop either a Fiend or a face down card you control. So you can either Set a Trivic Karma if you don't have a way to get it to the graveyard. Pop it, summon this. This is a level 6. It's very, very valuable in this deck. Or even better, it pops a Fiend, which Kaleido Heart is a Fiend. So I've been enjoying this a little bit. It kind of unbricks your hand. You can pop a Soliak, search a tier monster. There's a lot of creative ways to play this card. Now, the Horus engine. I've personally been digging it. You saw my deck profile. If you haven't, then check it out. Posted on Friday, I think. You can check it out in the channel. This engine has a couple things going for it. So first of all, it's a draw engine. You discard this and you send another card to the graveyard, which again, you know how valuable that is. Send a shuffler, send a miller. Everything works, and you search the sarcophagus and draw a card. So it refreshes your hand while putting a level 8 dark in your graveyard and anything else from your hand. But then it gets to the zombie vampire, which in my opinion is really, really good in this deck. It's a rank 8. You make it with the 2 Horus monsters that you play, this and usually Happy. Mills 4, and then you special summon any of those monsters. If there was a monster milled, you special summon it. So getting information on what your opponent's playing, summoning one of their monsters, a Bestial, a Fenrir, that happens a lot. You can use that to search, start your engine, get a level 6 on board, Beatrice, yada yada yada. And then you can just link it off for SP Little Knight later in the combo. Some other mini pieces that you can play. Foolish Burial Goods. Usually at 1 or 2, because this one sends Soliak and Trivic Karma or Scream, whatever you need. But this is a starter, essentially. You send Trivic Karma, banish Trivic Karma, search for the field spell, get started. Card Destruction does a lot of really cool things with your hand. This is a little bit extreme because sometimes you will have a starter or a tier name or something that you do want to keep in the hand. But first of all, it gets rid of your opponent's entire hand. So it already puts a wrench in their strategy. It's a -1 for you, but you send 4 cards to the graveyard at minimum if you just start with this, right? And you can also play this selectively at a point that you want. Now, a few things about the extra deck. We have Bahamut Shark and Toad. I think this is gaining a lot of popularity because getting an Omni Negate is very important. But Baron is a little bit hard to get to because you don't maximize on Diviner. Right? Not every time you will be able to resolve it, combine it with level 4. Doesn't always happen. But Bahamut Shark, which requires 2 water monsters, level 4, is much easier to get to. Nightsword Serpent, Mud Dragon, Rhino, very easy to get to. Your first fusion summon, you can put this on the board. Detach 1 material, summon totally awesome. You already have a negate. And follow up because this adds a water monster, which is Rhino or Tear Cash, right? And then of course, you can keep this on the board if you have a sprint in order to bounce, or just use it for SP Little Knight like every single card in the game. You remember this card maybe? Wallow? Very strong rank 6. Some people have been playing it. Not everybody has the room to play it because the extra deck is extremely tight. But it's a mini shuffler. It's like a quick effect zombie vampire-ish. It grabs a card from your opponent's graveyard and sets it to your field, which could be Talents, Super Poly, whatever you want. So if you do play a build that is kind of revolved around this one, it's pretty cool. Abyss Dweller, maybe even a side deck option at this point, but you still probably have to play this. Again, really easy to get to. If you play the mirror, you win when you put it on the board. And then Cross Sheep, we mentioned Diviner. I think this has been seeing a little less popularity because SP is now in the deck. So you gotta get rid of one of your links in order to play SP, and it's much better. So some people are like, yeah, fuck Diviner, we're not gonna summon it. And if we draw it, it's cool. If not, then it's fine, right? So this has been like a little bit of run through of all the moving pieces. Let's look at some builds right now. So I know this video is already a little bit long, but I do want to show a few examples of how you can use these cards to your advantage. There's a lot of like many moving pieces here. Of course, Foolish Burial, we didn't really talk about this, but this card is basically a mill 5 or, you know, Tier Cash, a name, anything. This card is a 1 for a reason. And Terraforming is not something that everybody plays, right? Because if you have Foolish Burial Goods, that equals Terraforming, and maybe you need some non-engine, because one of the hardest thing for this deck is the non-engine. I elected to play Nibiru and Super Poly here. Some people play Droplet and stuff. I think the important thing to note about the side strategy for this deck, I believe that a deck, there's 2 ways to build a side deck, and these are very generic ways. one way is that if your deck already has a lot of non-engine, you play a lot of hand traps in the main, your side deck should probably be board breakers, right? Lightning Storm, Duster, Evenly, Dark Ruler, stuff like that, and Nibiru in the sides, things of that nature. But if you were playing a deck like Tearlaments, your 6 non-engine cards have to be so impactful, but your side needs to have those little interactions for, not losing to combo, right? So this is why you would see Ash and Imperm in the side here. I think There Can Be Only One is very, very strong in this format, and it works perfect in this deck because, like, there's, like, tons of stuff, like fairies, aquas, you have insects, sidekicks. The end board is very varied. Like, your end board would usually be like a warrior, a fairy, sometimes a warrior, which you need to consider, and a fiend or a plant. It can play under There Can Be Only One. So think about that. So this build is the non-Horus build, which I haven't shown in my video. Take note of this. It's been working pretty well. I think I'm thinking of cutting Denier or Destrudo. Feeling like a little bit like a lot of bricks currently. But there's also the Horus build that I showed, which is a little bit more fun, to be honest, in my opinion. I've been having a little bit more fun with it because the Horus engine is just extremely explosive, and it offers another layer of protection on top of your build. So these are, screenshot, test them, get them. There's another video explaining this build specifically in depth on the channel as well. And yeah, it's been a little bit long, but I hope you did enjoy this. Don't forget about the Sleeve Chief Black Friday sale 2 days from now on Friday. 20% off the entire website, 5% off in addition to that with Galzo 5. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.